Representative Henderson. Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters.
Here.
Representative Swanitzer.
Here.
Chairman Nicholas.
Here. Okay. First up is House Bill 192, Education K-12 Food Services Program. Representative Walters, you want to just take us to the appropriation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just give you a brief overview. This bill creates a food service financial assistance program administered by the Department of Education. School districts may apply to the WDE beginning in school year 24-25 to assist districts in unpaid meals served to students from the prior school year. Beginning school year 2023-24, school districts will be required to make lunch available to every student enrolled in a public school every day school is in session. Eligible school districts will receive award amounts based on the available funds and information provided to the WDE, and the final awards will be made by the WDE. So if we go to the page 6, section 4 is where the appropriation occurs, and the appropriation is for $150,000 school foundation program account money to the Department of Education for this purpose.
Any public comment on the bill? Seeing none, close public comment. We have a motion.
Second.
Moved by Representative Henderson, second by Representative Walters. Discussion. Roll call.
Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye. Next up, House Bill 223. This is Wyoming preschool provider grants. Got a little bit of money in this one. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that the speaker has been working on this concept really through much of the interim, trying to figure out a way to address our early education system. As you folks all know, that's really fragmented in really trying to address students that are at risk or economically disadvantaged. And he's put together this bill that I support as well. I'm a co-sponsor on it, where we take $50 million from the school foundation program and put it to the Department of Education to be available to preschools that provide services to at-risk and economically disadvantaged students. And these are kids, you'll see how they're defined on page 2 of the bill. Then it talks about he also goes in here and defines what a preschool provider means. There's some requirements there. And then he, with this large appropriation, talks about there's some sideboards on what they can use it for, but really salaries and expenses for administration, as well as building and cost for training. So
my question, Mr. Vice Chair, is does this become a maintenance of effort?
it does not. There's not a federal match on here. If they qualified, if they were receiving funds, Mr. Chairman, through the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, I think that then there would then be an MOE, but I don't think. I think as it sits,
Public comment on the bill. Seeing none. Close public comment. Motion on the bill. Representative Walters, second by Representative Henderson. Then motion. Question being called. Roll call.
Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Okay, next up, House Bill 188, wolf depredation compensation. Come on, Chairman Eklund. So we've read through the bill because we kind of understand it, but just kind of do the quick and dirty on this.
Yeah, and it seems like you've done this before. And so is this similar, Mr. Chairman? I think it's real similar to what we had approved before for wolf depredation, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Interested.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Larson. We did get funding last 2 years ago, I guess, in the budget session.
Okay, just go ahead, John.
The original appropriation on the bill was for $135,000. That was based on what they paid out. We're able to document. This is compensation in the non-trophy area. The trophy area is paid for by the Game and Fish. We increased it and would like your consideration on an increase that we amended to $300,000. And the reason we did it is our southern border now is pretty much under attack. Walden and Craig, Colorado both have documented wolf kills, and I don't know how far that is, but it's probably not much more than 50 miles from where producers are on the south edge. We anticipate more money might be needed. Any money that isn't used would be.
So my question is the 135 that was documented, was that for a 1 year period or 2 year period?
I don't know. I think it was probably per year would be my guess, but I'm not sure of that. Doesn't say, does it?
Doesn't, that's what I'm, yeah.
Okay. Now, this is for a 3 year period of time, July 1st through 2023 through June 30th of 2026.
So the 300,000 is for a 3 year period.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the chairman? Questions for the chairman? Seeing none, any public comment? Come on up.
Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation, sitting in support of this. So this is money that it's getting to be depredation by the wolves is getting to be a larger and larger problem. As the good gentleman said, they're moving from the south up. And so sitting in support of this appropriation. With that, sir, I would sit for any questions you or the committee may have.
Okay, public comment, any questions? Is anyone online?
Yes, we
Bring
have
them
a
up.
Laura Pearson.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Laura Pearson. I'm a 6th generation sheep rancher from Southwest Wyoming. I want you to know that the amount of claims that have been documented are not a reality. When we used to be up on our forest, we had 50 sheep missing every 2 weeks that were undocumented and we were unpaid for. Because by the time Wildlife Services got up there, they would not document it. So I'm telling you that there are people in this state that have given up on even filing a claim because they know by the time they get there, there's going to be nothing left. And so I would propose that ranchers or producers are able to take pictures for documentation. And also, I'm wondering why the federal government isn't footing this bill. They created this problem. They should be funding it statewide. And this has hit home for me because we used to run 14,000 ewes and we're down to 750. And at the time that they brought the wolves in, we were running 8,000 ewes. And we had to give up our forest allotment because there were 26 wolves on us. And we weren't going to put our livestock through that. And there are a lot of producers in this state that are feeling the same pain as I am.
Any questions? Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank
Any
you.
other comments? Okay, we'll close public comment. We have a motion on the bill. Moved by Representative Stiff, seconded by Representative Walters. Discussion? Discussion. As amended, roll call.
Representative Henderson. Representative Larson. Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye. Next one's 270, Improvement Service Districts. Chairman Norther.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring you House Bill 270, Improvement Service Districts and Limitation and Act relating to Improvement Service District, providing limitation on the imposition of fees, charges, mill levies, taxes, and other assessments. At the bottom of page 1, you'll see that we are creating 18-12-142, limitation on fees, charges, mill levies, and taxes and assessments. Except as otherwise provided in this section, the district shall not impose any fee, charge, mill levy, tax, or any other assessment that would create a payment burden on the landowners within a district and exceeds any of the district's original petition for formation on the maximum fee. B is any limitation on the maximum fee, charge, mill, or levy, or shall be assessed. Okay, and then I at the bottom of that says, because we can do that, now we can calculate the dollar amount determined at the time of the imposition for a purpose of the subsection, so that they have a dollar amount to go back to the county attorneys and be able to say, here it is, go back and figure it on mill levy, so you can put it into a vote and make it work. Okay, double I is shall apply only to local improvement districts as created under this statute. And triple I is may be eliminated, reduced, or increased if approved by the majority of the qualified voters of the district by a mail ballot pursuant to Wyoming statute or concurrently with any other district elections, excuse me. That's probably the most important part of this, because it appears that this is not happening in this particular instance. Any taxpayer may bring suit to enjoin the violation or the subsection. That's number C. As you go through the rest of that, that's conforming. And when you get to the back of the page, you will see that on the 18-12-114 compensation, that they pulled up B and said, here's what the board can do, but the board shall not adopt any rule, regulation, or procedure resulting in any fee, charge, mill levy, tax, or other assessment in excess of any limit imposed pursuant to any authority granted. And this is what this bill does. So what's happening, there's a service district that has board members who are just assessing a fee. They're not following the rules and regulations. And so that brought the bill.
Questions for the bring of the bill? Public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We have a motion on the bill.
Move the bill.
Moved by Representative Walters, second by Representative Stith. Discussion. Question being called. Roll call.
Representative Henderson. Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
All right, next one, we have collections, 284,
Thank you,
agency
Mr.
regulations. Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring the committee House Bill 284, Collection Agency Regulation Debt Buyers. The purpose of this bill is to clarify that the Collection Agency Board shall license debt buyers. Currently, 35 states license debt collectors and collection agencies in the U.S. In most states, the definition is broad enough to include debt buying companies, but not in Wyoming. The only difference between a collection agency and a debt buying company is who has title to the debt. The debt buying companies own the debt, while the third-party collection agencies collect the debt on behalf of the company. And so, Mr. Chairman, if you start on page 2, line 14, we bring in the ability of the agency board to license a debt buyers by adding section G and going into line 16, we define what a debt buyer is. And then, Mr. Chairman, on page 3, we recognize that civil actions and arbitrations filed or commenced or a judgment entered into prior to July 1st of 2023 are valid. This provision is necessary due to the board's previous position that debt buyers were exempt from licensure. And so, Mr. Chairman, for the past 20 years or so, the board was issuing letters of exemption. But in the last year or so, a little over a year, they stopped issuing those letters of exemption because the board was unsure if they had the authority to actually issue that letter. And so this really cleans it up. And then I just note that all debt buyers do abide by the Fair Debt Collections Act, which provides the consumers from harassment, and it's a federal law from the mid-90s. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I would consider this essentially clean
Public
up.
comment on the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Dave Pickard, representing the Receivables Management Association International. We stand in support of the bill. for all of the reasons that Representative Walters had mentioned. I do have outside counsel for RMAI on Zoom if the committee does have any questions. Otherwise,
Which board?
who I represent.
No, which board oversees?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I apologize for that. Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, the Collection Agency Board. It's out of the Division of Banking. One thing that is important to note, Chairman Bradley Chapman of the Collection Agency Board was unable to be here, but yesterday we did participate in their monthly meeting, and the board passed a recognition of this bill unanimously that they support it. So it is something that they have wanted to have cleaned up in their regulation. There has been a difference of opinion over the years, but here we are today, and I am proud to say that the debt buyers are being licensed. At this point, this provides more clarity to the Collection Agency Board.
Okay, questions for Dave?
Question?
Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Question, move the bill. Representative Larson, seconded by Representative Walters. Discussion? Question on the bill. Roll call.
Representative Henderson. Representative Larson. Representative Sherwood. Representative Stiff. Representative Walters. Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye. Okay, Representative Knapp, come on up. 267. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. If all committees could work at this speed, I would much appreciate it. I bring before you House Bill 267 for your consideration or for possible interim study. And the reason I brought this bill was in response to the 3030 federal plan to counter that. Also to work with our own state's energy policies and land use plan when it comes to access, federal sales, mineral development, and parks planning. So basically what this bill does is gives Wyoming the first right of refusal for anybody that's selling or conveying to the federal government. And then we would offer that same price or possibly negotiate a lower price for that. I'm going through the bill. We have definitions on page 2. Page 3 gets into the notification. So not less than 45 days before entering into the agreement or contract, the landowner would provide notice in writing to the director and the board, including notice of purchase agreement, contract details, and property to be conveyed in the agreement of the contract, the appraised value, if known, and the agreed upon purchase price for the property. At that point, not later than 30 days after receiving notice, the property owner under subsection C of this section, the board shall, through the director, respond to the notice. And then that would trigger either declining to exercise the right of first refusal or declaring that the board intends to exercise the right of first refusal on the property, purchase the property subject to subsection C. On page 4, the purchase price to be paid for the property shall not exceed the amount offered by the United States for the property. If the property is to be granted or donated by the United States without consideration, the fair market value will be given for the property. The board may negotiate with the property owner to purchase the property at a lower price than the maximum specified in the paragraph. The purchase shall be made from funds appropriated, and in this area, I would imagine it would depend on what the land would be used for, whether it was conservation ourselves for Wyoming or from the SLIB or LISRA. Upon completing the purchase on page 5, the land would be managed by the board as state lands defined by Wyoming statute 36-1-101. The board may take action in managing the property purchased under this section including selling the property, leasing the property, or exchanging the land in accordance with the law. So basically, what I envision with this bill is that Wyoming would kind of take control of its own future, both in mineral development, land exchanges with the federal government, deciding how those would look in the future. And then that would kind of counter the 30-30 program too by the federal government. And with that, I'd take questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, so Representative Knapp, obviously this represents an infringement of sorts, infringement on private property rights, because you're telling a private landowner, you know, that you can't sell property to a party that you want to sell it to, and kind of forcing you to sell it to somebody else that you may or may not want to sell it to. So what is the concern that sort of outweighs that infringement on the private person's liberty interest in selling their property as they want to?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Stith, I agree with you. In this case, it would be only the federal government and the state of Wyoming. If there were any other parties that were bidding on that property, this would not take effect. I think with some, there's a possibility that amendment could be in there that the landowner may instead of shall. Once an offer is given by the state of Wyoming, he still has that decision to make, whether it's the federal government or the state of Wyoming that he wants to sell to. And I would hope at that point, he would sell to the state of Wyoming in our interest. So.
Go ahead, Representative Walters.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to continue on that same line of thinking. When you go to page 4, line 7, 8, 9, kind of in that range, it talks about donating. And so if I'm the landowner and I choose to donate it to the federal government, to the National Park Service or something like that, you're in this section essentially saying, I, as the private landowner, you've taken away my right to donate my private property to whomever I'd like. Because right there, you've said I have to offer it to the state as well as whoever I want to donate it to. And I guess I don't see where that is such a great idea. We're getting really into the weeds of managing people's lives at that point. And if I want to donate it to anybody, that's my prerogative. And why should the state interject in my decision to do what I want with my land?
Yeah, I guess the problem is it's probably unconstitutional, at least the way I read the Constitution. But go ahead, Representative Walters.
So, Representative Knapp, I know that you've spent a lot of time on this, and this is probably what you think about at 2 a.m. You know, like the rest of us. So my question is your experience as a county commissioner and being involved in business in Campbell County, if in self-reflecting, and if you're on this side of the table, what are your biggest concerns with the bill? Because, and the reason I'm asking you that is because as you visit with, you say, you know, consider the bill, think of an interim topic. When you say that, I'm maybe kind of catching that you're seeing maybe some structural or some things that maybe aren't quite vetted out yet. So I'm interested in what you think those are.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, I think it's based on the questions that I've actually received is one, the constitutionality of the bill in offering the landowner that final decision, so to speak, whether to convey to the federal government or whether to convey to Wyoming. The other thing is where the money would come from, which account the money would actually come from, and who would manage that sale, whether it's conservation or whether it's through LISRA or SLIB. But that's the biggest component, is giving that landowner that final right of conveying the land or selling the land to who he would want to, in conjunction with fitting it into, I believe that Wyoming does need to take control of what our future will be, both in mineral development, both in land exchanges with the federal government. And also, as we've seen, there's large ranches now being sold to the federal government, who has somewhat unlimited pockets to buy that land. I'm concerned with Wyoming only owning a fraction of our lands itself, that if the federal government continues to purchase land in Wyoming, that soon we won't have a say in our mineral development or our land exchanges.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, so, and I think that you voice a concern that we all have, you know, in doing this, and be interested to hear from our good director of state lands, because I think we have, and you and I even talked about this on how many acres the land state is allowed to have and how all of that works. So as we get ready to discuss this a little more at the conclusion of public comment, is it ready to go to the floor?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, I don't believe so. I think those questions need to be answered within the bill, whether through amendment or whether through interim.
If you've seen this in an interim, which committee, where would you take that?
You know, I'm not sure which committee would take that on.
It almost needed a combination of judiciary, ag, and appropriations.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would almost say judiciary first to answer those questions.
Mr. Chairman, I think you ought to start teeing that up. I think it's worthy of the conversation.
Well, in addition to that, we had two other bills here earlier this week that, with regards to foreign national purchasing, and so that they all kind of fall into the same bucket, trying to accomplish the same thing.
Mr. Chairman, I agree, because the federal government sometimes feels like a foreign ownership.
But it's
And Mr. Chairman,
it's land rights, constitutional rights, and what you can and can't do. Go ahead, Representative Wanzer.
I was just going to throw in Representative Knapp, possibly national security might be considered if the Air Force Base decides they want to put a couple of more missile silos. Do we want that to be public knowledge that the state has the right to buy it and stuff? So I don't know. Might look at that avenue.
Okay, so we're gonna run out of time. So public comment, agency comment.
Before we get to the agency, may I ask you?
Come on.
Yeah,
Present- The Representative Knapp, as you've discussed the idea of this being an interim topic, would you, if we just tabled it and didn't take any action, would you prefer that, or would you prefer no vote and it fails that way, or do you have a preference? Or
I think if we table it and go to an interim topic, that would be the preference.
So if we table this, do you need to comment?
So, just for Mr. Chairman, for my edification, could you just, what's that cap on acreage, or how does that all work? Just to remind me, or am I wrong on that?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, you're not wrong on that. Jason and I, we both were just trying to remember what the actual number is. We've been through a board meeting that didn't end until 3:30 today, so we're a little rum done, but the number, it's,
Welcome to the club.
what's that? Yeah. The number was established in, I believe, 1999 in a budget footnote. We've, taken that into consideration over the years, and it's above or below that 10,000 acres. Right now, I think we sit 3,300 acres below whatever that maximum amount is.
But then it was a budget footnote, so it really doesn't
Well,
mean anything. It's just a guide.
Correct. I think Senator Hicks has a bill underway that would codify that.
I thought there was something magic buried in the Constitution, but there's not.
No.
Well, it's a fascinating issue. I'd like to be. And I'd like the appropriations to at least have a part of it, just because there's so much. It'd be fun.
See what you've done.
So, yeah, if you don't mind, I think we'll just table it, and then we'll kind of work with management council and the build of those various bills and get them teed up and work on them. So.
But when you guys are laying awake at 2 a.m, like the rest of, kind of be thinking about the questions we could be addressing. I think you understand what we're trying to solve, versus what everybody went through and on all of this. But what are the hurdles? As we get ready? Because I think.
Well, there's lots of issues with this and this craft. The question is, how would you do it in a way that would be constitutional, would be probably not quite so dictatorial, but create a situation where people will want to do it, and want to get to the state.
So, move to table.
All right.
Thank you for the consideration,
So we
committee.
should table. And that clears the deck. So thanks, everybody.